Hey everybody, it's Christy again with Heart to Heart Creations, and I am coming to you for week 2 of the Sewing Marathon Society's Spooky Sewing Marathon. We are doing the Adam Masculine Crossbody by Kris McIntosh of KM Designs. It's an advanced beginner bag, and the approximate finished dimensions is 8.5 inches wide by 9.5 inches tall, and it's about 3 inches in depth. Okay, this is what the front of the pattern looks like. It's just page numbers that I know that I'll need to, or they're just pictures, so I didn't have to worry about printing those off. Okay, it's a nice thick pattern, very, very detailed. Just looking real quick. I'm not sure if I can show you anything on this page, but this part I should be able to show. This is how well the diagrams are when she drew them out. Perfect. I mean, for somebody like myself who is a visual and a hands-on learner, I can read a wall of text and it will not make sense even as I'm reading it. Or I can read the same thing over and over. It won't. I need those kind of directions. I love her patterns. They're all very, very friendly for users. I'm a fairly new sewist. I guess I'm at the advanced beginner level. I did make this purse once before. This is the one that I made before, and I made this in case it might look familiar to you. I made it at the Sewing Room of Garner with Sandra and Kassiah of Swag Bags. And these were the pattern colors and fabrics that I chose. But just to give you an idea, I did finish the strap at home, and I made it shorter because I made one that was way too long, and so I shortened the straps when I made it. And I don't recommend doing that if you're new like I am, because now it's a little bit too short. It's exactly where I want it, but it's not exactly, you know, easy on some things, depending, like when I walk my dog. When I take her with me, it's a little bit hard. So this is the first one that I made. We're going to make a new one. This one is going to be featuring some amazing fabrics. Okay, so we did the bag a little bit differently at the workshop that I went to. So I wanted to kind of put my own spin on the strap, although it's the same dimensions as in the thing. I actually wanted to do this kind of strap attachments, which is just the tri-glides. Sorry, this is the triangle rings. And I wanted to make the strap removable. These do glow in the dark, and it's a matte silvery finish. These are from New Moxie, and they were furnished to me by part of the materials that Sandra of the Sewing Room of Garner, and Tori from Seems Legit, their Horror Kings box that they have. I've kind of used a little bit of their products in each of the bags that I'm making. So this is one of those. They glow in the dark, so it's a matte finish, and so do these. And so I wanted to do these a little bit differently than I did my other bag, and I think a little bit differently than what is shown inside of the pattern. So I'll point out any differences once I get there. Okay, the next thing we have is a zipper. Okay, and I've got some tabs in case I need them. I can't remember if we used them or not. I don't think so, because there's a zipper stay here. So I don't think so, but there are no measurements. I'm going to highly recommend you buy the pattern. It's an amazing pattern. I love it. I get compliments from all genders and all ages, all types of people. Everybody seems to love it as much as I do. So definitely highly recommend. So I'm just going to quickly go over the products that we're using. We're doing a zipper pocket. This is from Lauren Mormino. It's her watercolors with the gray color tones instead of the colorful ones, used with just some black marine vinyl. I'll link everything into the description bar as well. So that's going to be the zipper pocket. And then with the back pocket, I'm not going to go through all those because I think some measurements might be able to be found out, but here's an example of the panel that we're going to be using for the outside flap, and then this is for the back pocket. So the back where I had the flowers on the purse, it's going to be this instead. Okay, and then we have a gusset, which again is going to be this material from ooh, I don't want to say the wrong name. I wrote it down last night. I'll insert it here. Most of this video is going to be just voiceover anyways, so I'll just voice it over, maybe. Anyways, this is another vinyl from that same designer, which I can't believe I forgot to bring that in here. And then we have two flaps on the exterior, so I decided to combine the outside with the inside, or I'm sorry, I did that backwards, I think. Anyways, those two fabrics I'm combining. My flap heavy stabilizer. This also goes on the flap. I've already made the video on how I made my own piping. I just wanted a small piping. I didn't want anything big. And mine had not come through the mail yet, so I showed in another video how to make this, and I will link that also down in the description bar, and you could check my YouTube page for that. And then here is just again double checking to make sure I'm not giving away any information. I'm not. There's going to be the front body, and then the back of the body is going to be just the plain black vinyl. Okay, so that's all the materials I'm using. I think I might add some more in if I've forgotten. I've gone through the pattern a few times. I think I have everything, but just in case. As I said, I had some issues uploading and editing last time, so thank you guys so much for sticking with me last week. I really, really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get sewing.
Here you see me creating a strap for my bag. You can do these in a solid color or use custom vinyl. Here I'm using the black marine vinyl with the custom fabric from Oh So Pretty Custom Fabrics, and you can find links to both of those in the description. I've just adjusted the straps based on the size I was looking for and the ratios I was looking for as well. And I first used double-sided tape to hold it down, and then I started to stitch it down. I did use the clips to help me hold them together, and here at the end you just see me making the straps not be open-ended or open. And here I'm just top stitching on the strap to show visual interest. And using the same combo of those fabrics, I'm just creating some strap connectors that I'll show you how I use in a few minutes here. Here I'm going to stitch right next to the strap connector, and each of these is about 3 inches, and I'm leaving about 2.5 inches or so worth of fabric material, and we'll use that in our gusset. And now our straps and our strap connectors are done. Okay, next I'm going to start on the piping, and this is going to be only on the front flap assembly. I ordered some online, but it didn't get here in time, so I actually had to create my own piping. This is pretty easy to do even if you don't have all of the exact materials you need to do it. As long as you have some vinyl, I can show you a way that you can still do it. Check in my videos to find out how to do that.
Okay, we have our basting in. This is the wrong sides of the flap. So what you're going to do after you do the basting, before you cut anything or do anything else, you want to flip it the opposite direction, and you want to check your piping and make sure everything looks well, or looks good, I mean. Just use your hand, make a little fist, hold your fingers tight, whichever works best for you. I have not cut any edges into my seams yet because I don't want to cut it too short if I need to take some stitches out. I don't do any trimming or anything until we're done and we get a good look at it. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, so in the pattern, she tells you how close you want to cut these, and she mentions that you want to make sure that they look correct. You want to, this will be easier once we actually trim the edges up and use some pinking shears around the edges. Right now, see, it kind of looks a little indented a little bit. That's just because there's so much material right there. On the sides, you can kind of take it and do this and get an idea for what it is. But for right now, you just kind of want to take a look. So I love how it looks tapered on this side, the piping. It just gradually goes into nothing. This side, I didn't quite catch it enough up here, so I'm going to come back, I'm going to pull it down, I'm going to measure and then make sure, but it looks like if I pull it just to where I stopped doing it, if I pull it in right there, it looks like it'll match the tapered part on here. Everything else looks really, really good. On the basting one, on the pink purse that I did that I showed you at the beginning, that one I did not baste high enough up, so it's nice to see now the basting, the piping tape is all the way in the way it's supposed to be, but it was my first time doing piping, and it was a pretty busy class, so I just didn't get to follow up with the teacher to make sure that was correct. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these last few stitches out right here where you can see where I brought it in. I just didn't bring it in enough, so I'm just going to pull it just a little bit so that it matches this side over here and is pulled in more. Okay, so I'm going to do time lapse for that so you guys can see, and then I'm also going to go ahead and trim it down and get everything the way it's supposed to be, as well as put in the snaps. Okay, they tell you not to do that. Oh, that, and then the middle flap too. They tell you not to do that until everything, this part's done, so I'm going to be doing those parts next in time lapse.
and here we are making our slip pocket. And at the very end of this clip, you're going to notice where I've made a mistake. Although it looked to me that it could have been possibly what was going to be in the seam allowances, it was not. I made the slip pockets a little bit too small, and you'll see black edges around it, around the sides and the bottom part. It's not supposed to be that much on each side, but I made do with it. And by made do with it, I mean it's going to be my bag anyways, and I just didn't care. All right, here we are starting to work on getting the last few steps of the bag done. And this is where we were taking the interior portion and sewing those together with the gusset. I tried my best to keep my hands out of the way, but some shots were a lot easier than others to do that in. I know that this might look like I'm working on the exterior because there's vinyl portions being used. Just keep in mind that my bag was predominantly vinyl, so it may look a little different than yours would. Alrighty, and then as we wind this section down, I'm using my pinking shears to trim the edges so that it would make the seams easier to trim, or to flatten out, I mean. And then at this point I remembered I wanted to put a rivet in between the stitch lines on the interior slip pockets, and so I went ahead and did that.
Okay, I didn't want to record this part in a time lapse because I wanted to let you guys see and hear some of the things that might be important. When you get to these corners, sometimes they're a little on the bulky side, especially if you have used vinyl like I have in, you know, a lot of the bag. And depending on your machine, so you're really going to have to make sure that your machine can handle like these corners right here. What I have found, I saw this on a tip, I don't remember whose page it was, I apologize, but I'm sure they didn't invent it either. If you find that you have a piece that you think might be, you know, a little bit too thick, if you have these or if you buy these, you use them to make key fobs, and so it's got kind of a rounded, curved type of edge, and then make sure, of course, there's no gunk or anything on it, and make sure there's no tears. If there is, no biggie, just put some, some felt in between as well, or on, even if you put it like on your bag here. And then what you want to do is take it, I'll move my hands in just a second so you can see, and squeeze these areas that are like kind of thick. Let's see, is that a good enough view? It's a little hard to tell what will be a good view from this camera. Okay, so I'm holding it parallel to the bag, okay, so that way, I know it's hard to see, but I'm holding it parallel to the bag, and then all I'm going to do is just kind of scrunch it, or crunch it, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not doing it on any of my hardware, obviously. I'm not doing it on any of the little things here, but it makes it feel a little bit flatter on there. And then if you have that problem, this is actually pretty thin. This is, let's see, 2 layers of vinyl right here. Yeah, 2 layers. And so it's actually pretty thin right there, but some of the thicker parts, like these edges here, it's 2 layers at least of vinyl, depending on where, some of it's 4 layers, depending on where I'm pinching. Like this flap, and then the interior is vinyl right here, and then the exterior is vinyl, so that's like 4 layers. So once I get around to this, actually I might go ahead and do it just now. Even though obviously I'm not going to be top stitching through all of this in this direction, I feel like it's got to help that I'm scrunching it, you know what I mean? I'm just right next to that clip. I'm not actually on the clip. Yeah, see, and that already went down. I don't know if you can actually see the difference in the video or not. Try to get as close as I can. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to let this go. Compare this right here to what I let go of. See how thin that makes it compared to... Now, it puffs back up, but it's a lot... Like, I can feel the difference of where I've done it and where I haven't done it. And again, it's not a huge difference, but every little bit helps, especially if you're on a domestic machine like I am. I know some people consider it a semi-industrial, and then some people say there's no such thing as a semi-industrial. I don't care what I'm sewing with, I love it. I loved sewing on the industrials too at one of the workshops I've done. So I can see me getting one in the future someday, but not for a long time because I just got this about a year ago and I love it. Okay, we're coming back over to one of those curves now. I'm going to hold it this way. That tends to be the easiest way. I've got this holding it right there just to, let me burn this thread real quick. Okay. I've got this, it was holding it just to kind of keep it down for the top stitching that I'm about to do. But before I do that, I decided I was going to show you guys. So I'm kind of working it into the corner here. And see, it's in this hardware is in between my clasp now. You don't want to do that. It may or may not hurt it, I don't know, but I'm not going to find out the hard way, especially this late in the bag, right? So I'm going to hold it parallel and just squeeze. And this one I'm going to give a little bit longer of a squeeze. Okay, yeah, see, that feels so much different. Just even that little bit. And I'm just, again, this just kind of reminds me, hey, pay attention in case I get in the zone sewing. And then, ooh, almost dropped it. I'm just going to pinch this other edge. Let me flip it over this way. Again, right here. And then I'm just going to squeeze it. Okay, and that helps, just helps it. have a habit of putting those on the wrong way, so it's kind of like sideways. Okay, and then again, I'm going to hold it there, make sure that's out of the loop, or out of the grasp there. I'm going to go ahead and put one more on there just to, I don't know if I did this side earlier. I think I did, but just in case, I'm going to do it again. It still looks a little thick, because this right here, it has 2 layers here of vinyl, 2 layers here of vinyl. So this was definitely needing some love on the corners here. And if you don't have these kind of pliers, I think they're called key fob pliers. If not, you can search that and it'll pop up. And see, I should have protected that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is a bag for me, thankfully. I wanted to test it on my own. It just marked up. Thankfully, it's kind of in the same colors of the bags anyways. But anytime I do that, I do take a little bit of heat to it, and that kind of melts it. Sometimes it helps it disguise it even more. It doesn't, I mean, as long as you're careful like I am, it doesn't increase the wear and tear or whatever. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. This is why time-lapse works well for me. Okay, and I'm just kind of, before I try to top stitch, I'm just going to push everything down in the bottom. Take your hand on the gusset, follow it all the way down, spread your fingers out down at the bottom, make sure there's no holes, which I've already checked this. I figured since I was going to stop it and talk a little anyways, I'd save myself some pre-recording. I'm just poking out some of those corners a little bit better. Back at one of these corners, or edges, I mean, of the gusset. Alright, so that's what the inside's looking like right now. I know, super dark, like you can't even tell. Time of day plus dark colors on the inside, which is kind of one of the reasons I went with some of this lighter stuff, but that's okay. I wanted it to look this way, so. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to get to top stitching.
So I wanted to show right there, the reason I stopped is because I realized, of course, on the top stitching, I forgot to put down the presser foot. I do that quite frequently when it's top stitching in bags like this, unfortunately. I need to find a way, so if you have any suggestions, please feel free to chime in. What do you do to remember to put your presser foot down when your materials are getting thick enough that you sometimes, like me, or all the time like me, forget to put the presser foot down because, like, if it's one, you know, piece of cloth or whatever, I remember because I see the difference. But when it's a bunch of cloth like this, or vinyl or whatever I happen to be sewing with, I never remember to put the presser foot down. I've come up with different ways that I've tried to remind myself, like I fully take my foot off of the pedal, which is good to do anyways, but I always forget. What do you guys do so that you don't forget? Any suggestions? Because what I'm doing obviously ain't working right. So now I've got to pull these stitches. Thankfully, it wasn't too far. I would have been really mad if I got all the way down at the end. I'm also kind of playing, what do you call it, bobbin chicken, because I haven't checked my bobbin in a while, so I'm kind of thinking I probably am going to run out. But it seems like also, when I'm at the end of a project, it seems like, and I don't know if this is just me, y'all tell me, is it just me? I also have problems with my freaking bobbin. Like, if I have to change, like, I'll be trying to get it before it gets me, and then when I change the bobbin, it never ever fails. Something goes wrong, it doesn't start stitching right, then I get more issues, and you know, most of the time at the end of a project, you're tired of sewing, you're ready just to get it over and done with, and so you can go sit down and relax, or get the endorphins from showing it off to everybody, and then you have to play with your freaking bobbin and fix it. So I'm like, really, I should, like, this would be a great opportunity to go ahead and change it, or at least check it, but I swear, every time I do, I mess the bobbin up somehow or something. I don't know what I do wrong. I don't know. Okay, so that's corrected. I mean, removed. I shouldn't say corrected. It's not corrected yet. I was doing really, really well, too. I struggle with top stitching and getting too much instead of the 1/8 of an inch, and I was actually doing pretty well on that. I just happened to look, and I was like, oh, dang it, of course. The one time I feel like I'm doing a decent job. Okay, I'm just kind of heat sealing that over that part because I really don't want to have to go back over that. I don't want to put my machine or the material through it. So I'm just kind of heat sealing that a little bit. I'm going to go back to like right where the stitching on the opposite side ends at about right here. So I'm going to go back to right where the cotton and the vinyl meet and start stitching there. Alright. Hope with me that my bobbin hangs in there and lets me finish. Please let me finish. Alright, since I'm already recording anyways, I'm just going to leave it on audio. I mean regular video, not time lapse. Maybe that'll be a good way to end the video. Alright, getting it under some of these is a little bit harder when stuff like this happens. Just go slow so that you don't break your machine or, you know, hurt yourself. I'm just pulling out like this direction on both sides of the panel. Let me get my thread to the back. Because of where it's situated, I'm gonna do like 1 or 2 stitches forward, and then I'm gonna go backwards to catch this, like, what? Maybe right here, about an inch and a half. But I want to get it started at least where I was. Okay, press her foot down. See, I almost didn't even check. And that's another reason you'll see me constantly throwing my hand back there, because I remember at the times I don't need to remember. But I guess maybe if I get in the habit of just always doing it, maybe that'll at least prevent that stuff from happening. Got distracted by a thread. Just ignore the thread. Get moving, Chrissy. We're ready. We're ready to get done with this project. Got editing to do. Alright, we're going to go forward. I'm also top stitching at about 4.5. That's different than when I combine things. Press her foot down. Okay, there's 1 stitch. I'm going to go back. I struggle kind of going backwards too, but at least in these kind of areas where it's the fabric's bending over. Okay, let me go ahead and cut this little string off. I'm going to go back over that. I don't want to get it messed up. I'm going to go back maybe 2 more stitches. It's hard to get that part under there right. You hear how my machine was like, "What are you doing to me, woman?" I'm also taking note not to push down on my fabric as it's gliding, because it is vinyl, so even though I have a Teflon foot, this part likes to stick a little bit depending on the vinyl I'm using. Usually it does pretty good, and this is doing pretty good too, but still compared to nothing. So a lot of times I will take it and lift it this way, but I'm trying to record, so I'm trying to hold it also in a different way, so I'm just doing the best I can to get it all done in the way that is best for both of us. I really like the way this bag is turning out though. It's really nice. I love this fabric. It's really, really good to work with, it feels like. This is the first time I've used vinyl from, I think it's Oh So Pretty. I have it linked in the description. I'm going to go ahead and just cut off those back threads where I was at earlier. Okay, and then as I come to this part that's not top stitched down, I'm pushing down this way, you know, towards the bottom of the bag from the top. I had it pushed down, of course, before I flipped it, but as you move things around, you know, and then you got to make sure too the back part doesn't come up over your presser foot and cause issues back there too. Make sure your hardware, I keep calling it silverware today, that feels really, really thick. I'm probably going to have to hand stitch right in here. It feels thicker than the other side. It must be laying differently. If you look and well, if you listen, I'm not looking because I'm focused on what I'm doing. This part of the bag in the back, just from the weight of it, it's not heavy or anything, but it's not just one piece laying there. You can hear it kind of like. Okay, here's where I'm gonna have to be extra careful. I don't want. I've got a jeans needle in, but still, that's pretty thick. And always double check. I have from String Theory Fabric Art. I ordered something one time. Yeah, the fabric I think it was. And I got a bunch of stickers with it. Oh, I won something. That's what it was. I won a flash drive. And I got a bunch of little stickers. And like this one says floppy metal bits, ? Use tapey tape, ! Ricky uses words like tapey tape. So that's where I got that from. And I put it here to remind me, check your hardware. Or silverware, as my mind keeps wanting to call it. Okay, that went okay. Hopefully my hands are out of the way. It looks like it every time I glance up. I'm just going to pick up from the bottom and kind of rotate the purse or bag, whatever you're making. This is a bag, technically, crossbody bag. But wherever you grow up, you might even call it a pocketbook, huh? That's what we grew up calling it. I am going to double stitch at this part just because that's the where the hardware is attached. Some of the hardware is attached for the strap, and I feel like you can never have too much there. Well, I guess maybe you can if you tear through your vinyl, but I'm far from doing that. So, all right, I'm going to just bend the flap over now that we're through with all that. All right, and again, I'm using my fingers, and I'm kind of doing this motion to make sure it's, you know, spread out as much as it can. And then if you need to, you can always use this. I opened up my zipper in case I needed it for leverage, but so far I haven't had any issues, thankfully. Knock on wood. That's not wood. Let's walk. Knock on real wood. Okay, and I'll be going to this part right here. Come on, bobbin. I only got one more little thing to stitch up after this. And that is the liner. I can never get these straight. So I try to put it in an inconspicuous area. I'm not so good at that part. I'm getting there. I'm better. Okay. Cut off the other end. I'm just kind of checking to see if there's anything that needs fixed. The next step is sealing the bag up completely, so you don't want to get that part done and then have to start ripping seams. Whew, did a good job. I don't often compliment myself like that, but I did a really good job. Seam went down just a little bit here, but I mean, around the sides, if I get one line, I'm happy, so. If I could go back, I would put this just a tiny bit lower. I didn't quite make up for the difference that I thought I would when I flipped it over. This is where the last stitch was for the hardware over, or the hardware holder connector, and the stitch to the bags right here. So I wish that would have been down just a tiny bit more so that this was behind, but that's okay. If that's the worst that's on the bag, I'm very happy with that. And, you know, it matches on this side, so I did it pretty well, I think. Yeah, I'm just checking out the vinyl now. And so I did 2 pockets here on the outside. I used those more than the inside ones, so I chose to do 2. I'm going to do an intro for this video as well, so I'm going to show the bag off there, but I'm just kind of checking it out and seeing how things look. Oh, I guess I could show you this too real quick while I'm actually talking and not fast forwarding quickly. I accidentally, I cut a little bit of the stitches to make this a little bit wider. Because of all the vinyl, I needed a little bit more than I thought I would need, but even with doing that, loosening it up, it tore a little bit there. So thankfully I had a little bit of extra space there. I think what I'm going to do off camera, since it's not technically part of the pattern, this is the 809, the Pellant 809. So I think what I'm going to do is try to take this like this and see if I iron it, if it'll activate that glue and hold it down until I can stitch it up at the top, and then that way it'll be covered. Again, this is my bag, so it's a good one to experiment on. If this were to happen with a customer's bag, am I going to need to redo the whole thing, or how can I fix this without them noticing, or, you know, noticing and maybe knocking a few bucks off depending on what you did. But it was a pretty significant tear as it was coming through, and the worst part was I didn't even hear it tear, so I was being gentle, even though I'm sure the going fast forward is not going to look gentle, but let me get 2 of these to put on it so that I remember where it's at. Worst case scenario, I do have some heat and bond, light and heavy actually. So, oh, you know what I might do? Looking at it this way, I might just sew that up. I'm going to try the heat and bond, the heating up the stabilizer since it came off during that tear, and see if that works to hold it down. I may or may not get back on, but I'll at least update you guys on a slide or something. So I need to fix that, I need to get it repaired, and then the inside, whoops, wrong side. The inside cover right here, I need to sew that part together as well. So just just going to pull these two out. And since I'm going to be over there ironing anyways, I'm going to iron this down and then just do a straight stitch across the bottom. Alright, so I will see you guys on the next sew. I appreciate y'all being here, and I will update the intro to include the finished product.
Monsieur Don, moi je t'interromps.